Okay, so let's continue our interview with part 2 of the questions that you and I had for the traveling couple that I hosted a few days ago. Let's hear what they had to say. Okay, so you were answering about if you were a solo traveler before, and then I was curious to ask you about advantages and disadvantages of traveling as a couple. So if we can get back to that, because we had some technical errors.
Okay. I think we were starting, huh?
Let's start with the advantages then.
Yeah, first, have we been solo travelers actually?
Yes, you answered that, both of you, and you said you had a trip with a mate, with a friend.
Yeah.
And you were saying about something with the connection, like it's like moving back, if you remember that answer, like how it is traveling as a couple.
Yeah.
How you feel about it?
Yeah, well, I think like most of the factors that are coming into play are not so much different from being with any kind of travel mate that you decide to travel with from the beginning. You have to make the same compromises probably in most regards. You have to adjust to the other person a lot. But I think the main difference is everything you do has like this bigger scale of implications. Because, you know, with a travel mate that is just a buddy of yours, you could just say after 2 months, hey, you know, it was a nice time with you, but I want to go my own way now. If you do this as a couple, I think in more cases than not, it has not the best implications for the relationship in general. This is one thing.
Yeah.
You want to add something?
No, like I mentioned before, it's whatever decision you take, you have to make a compromise, as long as you don't agree with the decision. So, yeah, if you want to go one way and the other wants to go one way, you have to balance the situation and see who wins, who has more arguments. And it happened to us that sometimes me especially, we got into a unpleasant situation, and because we decided to go for his decision, then I started getting angry and blaming him. It's your fault because we are here, and we could have been on the other. We could have taken the other way, and so on. Yeah.
But well, on the bright side, for sure. I think this is not on the video now yet. As a guy, the whole hitchhiking factor, as we were mostly hitchhikers, especially after we sold our bikes and also in the past all the time. As a couple, it is just so much easier to hitchhike, actually. I mean, if she hitchhikes alone, it's maybe even easier, but she really bails me out a bit. But it's also a two-side situation, because on the other hand, then as a couple, it's so stereotypical. In Germany, people would call me a sexist. But for you, it might be more comfortable, because if you go into a Turkish truck and I'm there, it just feels a bit safer, because, you know, there's a guy around and yeah.
Also camping, I think I wouldn't camp alone if I wouldn't have a mate with me. So I guess it is an advantage to have him. And sometimes he does carry more things.
What do
you carry?
Sometimes?
Okay, always.
I'm a donkey. I mean, we were climbing the Red Desert Mountains recently. I was carrying a ukulele left, a violin right, and my backpack with all the food nearly. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore.
But nice music on the top.
Yeah, for once. Anyway, what I would like to mention is people who would like to travel to countries that are maybe more conservative than other countries, like certain kind of societies. I think we can talk more, especially me, I can talk more about Muslim countries, where in many of those countries it would be a very strange sight for people, not out of bad intentions, but out of a completely different concept of life, to see a female traveling alone.
Yeah. And also out of respect, if I would be alone on the street as a female, most of the men would just not interact with me. Yeah, it's a cultural thing. And once I'm with Ben, immediately we get in contact with funny people and nice people, and yeah, things just flow somehow much easier.
Yeah, it's just a more natural thing that when we say we are a couple and we are married in that case, naturally, yeah, that it is just easier. And also it's not just a selfish thing, because I'm quite aware that we are making it much easier for those people. Like if we are in a small Iranian village, to have a couple and to invite them to the house is just so much easier to have a guy alone who might be single and you don't know, how's the situation? Is he married at home or not? There's a language barrier. You cannot even communicate such things.
We create more trust, I think, as a couple.
Yeah, and also we have access to different sides. Like, as a guy alone, in many countries, it's tough to really get closer to the females, like to really understand how is life as a girl in an Iranian village. But for Maria, it's possible.
Yeah.
And I can do the guy stuff, I can go out with the guys and shoot the Kalashnikov a bit and say, hey, yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
And other disadvantages besides the, let's say, compromises, which we'll talk a bit later, like what other disadvantages are between solo traveling and couple traveling? Or like differences, let's call them differences, because maybe disadvantages sounds a bit too negative.
Yeah. I mean, besides the disadvantages we mentioned, I don't really have something now. There might be, but just don't come into my mind. Differences, except flexibility.
Well, I guess we could talk about a certain thing that it's maybe a bit difficult to mention in a couple situation. As I had the situation that I was traveling mostly alone in Asia before, this like, everybody knows it, nobody talks about this romantic factor.
Yeah.
And you know it yourself.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
When you're alone, you're kind of open to all kind of situations.
Yeah.
And it was never the main intention of any of my travels, and I surely hope it's not the main intention of anybody's travelings, but it can be very beautiful, to put it in like most direct words. If you are like in a foreign place and you can just encounter like a romantic situation.
Yeah.
It's not even necessary that something happens out of this. Mostly, actually, nothing happens out of this. But to just know, you just have a different approach to things a bit.
Yeah.
And when you're a couple...
And I think also people treat you differently when you're a couple. It's like they give you more space for it, so they don't get so close to you. Even, they could get in a non-romantic way, even if you're a couple, but it just doesn't happen. And if I would have another disadvantage for me, is that when I'm alone, I'm very exposed to everything around me. And I have to do it all myself. So I'm crossing my own barriers, and because I have to do it, there's nobody else. When I'm with Ben, sometimes I know, okay, if I can't do something, I will just let Ben do it for me. And this doesn't help me on an individual level, because I don't grow so much. Sometimes it's just I just tend to give my responsibilities to him, and then, just shitty. If I would be alone, I have to do it. It's just me, it's nobody there to help me.
Doesn't it happen the other way? Just to be stubborn, to show him that you can do it?
No.
She's too comfortable for that. Yeah, and like one more thing I could add is, like, aside from this romantical thing, what was cool when I was traveling alone and also with my male travel mate, to sometimes to do like real nasty male things, when you're just in some funny countries and in the evenings you just feel to go in some sailor's pub and to just open the vodka bottle and all the sailors are coming in. This is just shit that is not working too well, and I wish it would be. I'm not a sexist. When there's a girl around. And then it's also stupid. I feel stupid if I'm going alone and Maria has to stay at home. I also don't want this.
I wouldn't mind this.
But after I come home, you would mind.
Depends.
Okay,
so did you like part 2? This is the end of it. The part 3 will follow in a bit. Go and watch it if it's already published.